Good evening and welcome back to the FGU cast. It has been a long time and we do apologize, but we are back into it. We've got the crew. We've got Yoni, Jesse, Reggie, and myself, Alex. Guys, it's been a hot minute. How have we been?
Very good, very good. Lots of
Pretty
changes in everyone's lives, I think. I think Yoni's been busy, I've been busy, Jesse got a camera, so pretty busy.
Yeah, mate, Reggie moved houses.
Jesse's no longer a Mary Fowler catfish. He is a person, as we can see.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Hired crisis actor.
He's a paid actor.
Yeah, I think everyone's had a good 6 months probably since we've done this last day.
Has it been? I thought it was
been
like a year.
It's been about 6 months. It's been a long ass time. I think the last one we did was Klopp's resignation. I think that was the last one we did.
Yeah. It's like mid-season.
When was that, January?
I did that farewell tour go.
We won the quadruple. We built a statue.
I think from memory, he didn't do as well as
all of your
Ten Hag did.
No.
We'll get to that.
Mohamed Salah has a new hairline since then.
Yeah, that's true. But
it was so confusing yesterday.
Oh, why is that?
I was missing the afro. I was like, who the fuck is this cunt?
Oh God, Jesse. I'm surprised you even watch, seeing as you don't even watch Bayern games.
I do watch Bayern games ever since Aaron Kunde arrived. I've been all over it. He's played no games.
He's the only guy
yet, so.
Only guy in the group that has a be in subscription.
Yeah, that would be true.
No, I don't. Yeah, of course I do.
Yes, I do. To the Emiratis watching.
Right.
Jesse, I think it's a fun fact. Do you want to start with that just before we kick into the topics?
No.
I do. So obviously,
that's his idea of a fun fact.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, then notorious.
Nah. This is actual fun. So obviously, season kicked off yesterday for all the good teams. Brighton was playing. James Milner starting. Fun little fact about that. His manager was 9 years old when James Milner debuted in the Premier League. His manager is like 33 years old.
It's cool to know. I wouldn't say it was fun.
He's been around 23 seasons in the Premier League now, and I think he's like 20 or 30 games away from Gareth Barry's record for most games. So
he would have already overtaken
the good one to keep an eye on.
I think it's close to Giggs, but he's the first player to have. He's close to overtaking Giggs, I think. He's the first player to have done 23 seasons in the Premier League. So he just keeps going. Just keeps on. Keeps on along.
Does Giggsy still have the fun record?
Part? Sorry, is that
you go?
I was going to say the fun part of the fun fact was that James Milner has spent more time playing in the Premier League than George has been alive. That's the fun fact.
Okay. Do you think Giggs is?
I just had a small question. Does Giggs still have the record for the most consecutive seasons scored in? Because I think he had 19 seasons or something.
I believe he does.
Yeah, that's hectic.
And is Milner currently on a streak? Because he does take penalties everywhere he goes.
Did Milner get a goal last year for Brighton? I don't think he did.
The question is whether Milner, he would have had a season or two where he was maybe playing right back, but then not taking pens, for example, when you have Salah, or maybe when he was at Man City at the time, he wouldn't have taken the pens. So I'd be interested actually to know that.
Yeah, well, maybe Jesse can deliver that next week for his fun fact. It will turn into weekly James Milner facts.
Are we making it a weekly segment?
With 23 years, they're plenty, right?
Until we get most consecutive fun facts from Jesse.
He didn't score
James
last
Milner, fun fact.
Now.
There we go.
What a loser.
Giggsy!
So we started.
Free cheers for
any minutes.
Maybe not.
So we started talking about James Milner and somehow ended turning into a Manchester United podcast again.
It's typical.
That's just the way it is.
Two seasons, actually.
There you go.
That's just the way.
In saying that though, we can talk about James Milner all night, but we won't because we've got a lot to talk about. There's been a lot that's obviously transpired since our last episode. But what we want to do is we kind of want to change it up a little bit, and rather than just talk about news and what's going on, talk about results, blah blah blah, we want to each have a topic that we can focus on and discuss, like as a crew. So each of us has actually brought something that we want to discuss, and we'll dissect it as best as we can. We'll start with Reggie because you've got a contentious topic, I would think, probably among the members in the group. But we'll kick it off with you as our resident Liverpool fan.
Yay.
Take it away.
I love Resident Evil and Resident Liverpool. So I've been a bit concerned with our transfer window. As we briefly touched on, the great Klopp has left us, and we've brought in a new manager, Arne Slot. And you would have thought the club would have thrown a lot more support behind him in the transfer window. We had an issue last season where we kind of call it a panic buy. We jumped into the Endo signing right at the back end of the transfer window, but it was still very much a weak point in our depth in our matchday lineups. We didn't have that sitting midfielder. We went in for Zubamendi. He chose to stay with the real social dads, which is fair enough. He's kind of their local hero in a way. And it seems pretty all quiet on the transfer front altogether. We haven't addressed our issues. We've not brought in any signings, and in fact, we've been selling. So it's a bit of a concern from my perspective.
Not all quiet.
Not all quiet.
I was just gonna say, yeah, there is a transfer that might happen. Joe Gomez might leave. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're selling. We sold Carvalho, which I was actually excited to see him back around the team. I like him as a player. But yeah, all our rivals around us, especially Man United, like that's what you want to see. They had a change in board rather than manager, and they started throwing their weight around in the transfer market. So yeah, I'd kind of like to
we did.
Just discuss everyone's feelings on that, which I know you two probably enjoy that.
I think it's very reminiscent of when Fergie left United and David Moyes had that summer, and he wanted Fabregas, he wanted somebody else as well. I don't remember who, but then ended up obviously getting Fellaini for an overpriced. Oh yeah, Bale.
Yeah,
and it does feel similar to that. What I find quite interesting, and this is at least what I get from the English pundits, because I do watch quite a bit of it. Everyone still has, or most people still have Liverpool as third, and to me, I think that's kind of really it's a tough call to make, because you don't know what's going to happen with a new manager. The team as well. Again, you've lost players. You haven't brought anyone in, and now it's now the second year in a row that you need someone in that CDM role. You haven't got it. Teams know that you don't have that CDM that you want, so they can actually target that when they play against you as well. You've got Champions League, which is longer now because the new format for the Champions League. You've got the Premier League and obviously the other cups as well, and I can really see it being an issue if you don't strengthen now, or at the very least in January.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see how it goes. I'm loving it though.
We saw it last year with Arsenal when they did the Champions League run, and then they kind of fizzled out right towards the end of the season. It was, if you looked at like the players who had played the most games, like out of the top 50, you could almost fit Arsenal's entire starting 11 who had played the most minutes across the whole season, who were also both in there. Like, it was bad, and you need that depth. You need the depth to...
I mean, if you look at it, Liverpool also fizzled out at the end of last season because they were playing in so many competitions, and the depth now is lower than it was before.
Yeah, and as everyone's seen, all it takes is that one injury.
Yeah.
And as well, like, if we go by
too, like...
Up, go Jesse, go.
I was going to say, to put it in perspective as well, like, it's not just, you're not signing anyone. It's like the fact that out of the 132 clubs in the top 7 European leagues, you're the only club that hasn't signed anybody. That's,
Thanks, man.
When every single club, like
A lot.
Your-
That's a
your
lot of
fun
clubs.
facts suck.
That's
even
the fact that I
Arsenal,
posted
who-
earlier, and Jesse was like, "I hate you, Yoni," so I deleted it.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, no one touch my fact.
Yeah.
Like even Arsenal, I think, is Arsenal probably in a similar sort of boat, even though they've made technically 2 signings, one of them being the goalkeeper that they had on
Raya.
loan last year. But the defender that they got, like, I don't think that's enough for them, and I think they're just gonna have the exact same issue they had last season.
They didn't address the main issue yet.
Jesse,
which is
say his
that
name.
kind of
Jesse,
follow.
Jesse, say his name. Say the name.
I
of
don't
the
even know his
defender that
name.
Arsenal signed.
I just remember he got
Hendry?
from
Oh,
Bologna.
never mind.
No, it was Calafiori, who every edit I've seen of him is how good looking he is. I actually don't know if this guy's any good. I saw a bit of him at the Euros. I think he had a good season at Bologna, but everyone seems to be fixated on how attractive and aura he's got. I actually don't know if he's any good, but just wanted to digress. I was going to say as well with Liverpool, like it's just I'm curious to see how they're going to line up because last night, yeah, they won, but it looks like they're playing
Ipswich
Gravenberch and McAllister.
very good as well, so that should just say
Yeah.
it all that
I
we
hear
need
it
to
was-
strengthen.
Yeah, I mean, and
And you had
like,
Gravenberch and McAllister as your double pivot, which is like a really like it's a very soft midfield. Like it'll be skinny, small, not like really going to sit there and
Yep.
protect. So how
You
you
know,
going to look kind of up against a stronger midfield?
Gravenberch is actually the last signing they made.
Yeah.
Really?
That's how bad it is.
yeah, actually, it
Was he
'cause
after
like,
Endo?
that was that was pretty much the last day because a lot of Bayern
Yeah.
fans
I
thought
think it was
that,
like
we were going to cancel that deal because of Fulham fucking us over with Palhinha.
But yeah,
But
it
it's
puts a lot of pressure on Arne Slot. Like, I get coming into a new team, he wants to see how everyone plays, but you would have thought they would have supported him a bit more and giving him the pieces he needs.
But
It
the
seemed like
interesting
they-
thing is about pressure is I don't feel like he's getting pressure from the media at all. Like compared to other managers, which we'll speak about later. But
Oh, we can go straight to it now. Like,
It's
Ten Hag gets so much pressure being a Man United
He does,
manager, and he does have the support behind him now from his board. And if anything, the pressure's just increased.
when
yeah,
you're spending money,
wins
they
2
don't have
trophies
that.
in 2 years. Still, he's not good enough. He's not good enough. And
Well,
I want to touch this when Alex touches it because I've got a few points about this as well. So we'll get to that.
Just
I
to
do
say,
love
on Liverpool
touching.
before we,
The funny thing as well with the slot thing as well with his with the whole like not being backed is that at the end of the day, like the team, like the core of the team was built in Klopp's image.
Yeah.
Now, we obviously mentioned we've made the Sir Alex Ferguson comparison. It's an easy comparison to make, but when you have a manager that influential to your club, unfortunately, he does sort of loom as a spectre over your club. The best thing for Slot is to be like, okay, Klopp was great for Liverpool, fantastic, but this isn't Klopp. He's not the manager. It's put him behind us. You can't be comparing him to Klopp because he's not Klopp. He's only Slot. But it's hard to avoid that when the team is just the Klopp team.
Yep.
I've already noticed that like the shape of Liverpool was different. The shape was more of Slot's style, was more of a 4-2-3-1. It was maybe a bit more possession, less of that aggressive sort of Klopp style. But how is he going to really imprint his vision if he can't get the plays that he wants? If he's stuck with Klopp's team trying to play his style, that's just going to look really awkward. So it's one thing to not get backed, but it's another thing where he's not getting backed on top of trying to actually replace an icon of a club and have his own vision. It's just it's a massive, it's a bit of a double whammy for Slot. And I'm not saying he should be sacked or blah blah, but it's look, I still think Liverpool finished third just because I think they're probably the third best team in the country. But he's got a lot working against him. It's not an ideal situation for a new manager to walk into, especially a new manager replacing someone like Klopp. Because again, there's just going to be the comparisons, the nostalgia, all that sort of stuff. It's gonna work against him. So it's a tough one for him. The only thing maybe that would probably help Matt is that Liverpool fans tend to not really turn on the manager, except for maybe Hodgson was the only time they were probably toxic towards him. So
Yeah.
I feel at least he'll get that love and patience from them.
Yeah, we'll
Liverpool
see
fans-
what happens.
One other positive, I think at least, and it's a small thing, but I actually really, when I look at him now, like when you see him both in the preseason and in yesterday's match as well, I do feel like he has this aura about him where he's confident in what he's doing and he knows what he needs to do rather than like, I'm following Klopp. I am going to do it my way. And like, yesterday at the end of the game when he was shaking everyone's hands and everything, he just looked like he belonged the part, which I thought is already obviously a good sign. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's a championship manager.
Yeah.
Just on that though, is I think Liverpool fans are a bit smarter than I don't want to say United fans, but I reckon they can.
No, you can
recognise
say it.
that
I
Steele's
agree.
doing. So if he does,
look, they're at least the smartest
fail.
ones in
if he does
Merseyside.
fail this season, yeah. Well, if the club does fail like to win anything this season, they can understand that the board not backing him, is the issue. And I think I thought with Michael Edwards returning to Liverpool, you'd get a little bit more power to buy more players because you haven't done anything like Robertson.
Yeah.
You haven't brought some random player from whatever league it was. He's turning to the best left back in the world. Or Salah, I know he was a bit better and was at Roma, but he wasn't the world beater he was at Roma. And you brought him in randomly, and he turned out to be the best player. You haven't done that in a long time. You've just been buying really well-known players, and they've either not worked. But then the other issue Liverpool's got to worry about at the moment is you still don't have contract extensions for Van Dijk, Salah, or Trent. So Van Dijk has been pretty vocal in the club needing to make signings. You've got Trent, who Real Madrid is probably half in his ear, going, "Hey, come on over. We're putting this team together, and you can be a key part of it because we're one of the best." Yeah, exactly. And so Real Madrid's going, "Well, we've got all these great players. They're all young. This is a core team for the next 5-10 years. Come win." And he's probably going to go, "Well, Liverpool's not doing anything. I'm gone." And then Salah, I mean, he's going towards probably the end of his career. I don't know if he's quite there yet, maybe a few seasons, but does he want to be at a team that's competitive? Because that's the other issue.
Yeah.
Or does Salah go to Saudi? Salah could also go to Saudi. He's had the offer from. Yeah, my voice just died there. Salah has the offer to do. Shut up. Salah has the offer to go Saudi as well. So there's also that prospect.
Maybe he could go play with. You can go play with Ronaldo and actually win some trophies. Yeah.
Well,
I think he lost
probably
just
could.
like,
But
Salah.
the plays you mentioned as well. The plays you mentioned as well, Jesse, like Salah, Van Dijk, even Alisson's like 30. Robbo's 30. Like those are core plays from that.
Well, they tried
that
to
haven't
replace
replaced.
Alisson
So
with they were trying
the
to
Georgian guy. I'm not going
replace
to.
Alisson.
Let's not go there.
A
Let's not go
Georgian
there.
keeper, and they wouldn't. They wouldn't front up what I think it was 40 million that Valencia was after, and they wouldn't front it up. That's he's a talented keeper that even Bayern Munich was interested in for a while. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and how are Liverpool going to replace those? Because that's their core from like the last 10 years ish. How are they going to replace them? It's one thing not having signed a defensive midfielder. But then, what are they going to do about Van Dijk and Salah and all that? They're in a bit of a tricky situation.
Yep, sounds pretty reasonable. But like Salah, let's move on.
We will. Well, on the topic of transfer windows, Jesse, you want to talk about? I know you said you want to talk about who's won the transfer window, and you do have a few teams to discuss. Obviously, Liverpool won't be one of them, so we'll park it from them and we'll discuss. Jesse, whom do you think has won the transfer window?
Well, I'm just doing English clubs because we'll stick to the Premier League today. And there's four English clubs that I think have probably put themselves in a better position than any of the other ones. First off, being West Ham. I made a post in the group about it. They're cooking. They've got Tadebo, Wan Bissaka, Fulkrug, Somerville, and Kilman. They reinforced all the key areas that their team was not well in. And now they've got this, one of the best teams probably in the world at the moment, on paper anyway. But
wow, big call.
Yeah, it's as I said. Yeah, well, as I said, they've got a really good, strong team. Except their manager is probably not the right manager for it. improvement on Moyes, 100%. But I don't know. Yeah, the squad that they've built seems like it should be.
Are they in Europe this year?
I'm
No.
not 100% sure
No.
actually. Yeah, because they struggled last year. They struggled a lot.
Yeah.
And like they've fixed up the areas that they needed to fix up. I mean, they've got 2 centre backs in. They've got a new striker. They've got a new right back. They've got a winger. You've got everything you would want, plus some other players as well that they got for cheap from Brazil and Spain.
Yeah.
It's funny saying they struggled, but they came 9th. But they did actually struggle. Like if you watch them play, like I think Bowen was like overperforming massively as well, and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And if he can keep up his form, and then these new signings come in and make their impact as well, it's funny because I'm going to go on to the team that beat them last night. Now as a other team who I think probably had the best window out of the 4 teams I've selected, and that's Villa. So
Villa finishing second in my book.
they've made a couple of
yeah.
What,
second in the league? You mean, or second in the window?
In the league.
I don't see it.
Yeah,
and
when you pose the question, when you pose the question just about who won the transfer window, Villa were the first team that came to mind. So yeah, go off on that
as well.
Yeah, so Villa. I mean, obviously they've brought in Maatsen, who had a really impressive loan at Dortmund. Wasn't doing anything at Chelsea. They weren't playing him. Go to Dortmund.
It's hard to play players when you got
Dortmund
70 of them.
Really hard to keep him, but. Yeah, I know. It's why Chelsea doesn't even make the list because I don't even know who
they want to
last year
and they want to sell
and who they're signing next year.
I know.
It's
they
so
want to sell
confusing.
Chilwell. They want to sell Chilwell, but they've got rid of Maatsen, who would be a great replacement. I
know.
Whatever.
Wouldn't be shocked if they sell Chilwell and they're like, "Oh, we'll play Maatsen," and they're like, "Oh, he's gone." Oh.
Yeah, we sold him. Yeah. So obviously, yeah, Dortmund really wanted to sign Maatsen and tried their best to keep him, but Premier League has a bit more of a pool than Champions League apparently. Onana from Everton, obviously he's a gun. He's.
I just want to mention that you said Premier League has more of a pool than Champions League. Villa is in the Champions League.
Yeah, but like for how long? Because you guys rotate.
They have the same chance Dortmund has, I'm pretty sure, but.
No, I'd say Dortmund has probably the best window in the Bundesliga for signings this year, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. And I have notes about that because I will discuss that as well.
Yeah. But
it's good that you
going back to Nana
talk about Villa
Everton,
though, because
one of the top players at Everton. Mm-hmm.
We talked about how Arsenal didn't learn from their fizzle out, Liverpool didn't learn from their fizzle out, and they've got European football. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Villa, who are preparing themselves a lot nicer.
I think that comes from having
I've made the note
having Emery as their manager, considering he's such a European manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he knows what he wants and how to win Europe as well. Which is at the end of my little segment I've written here for Villa. Is Villa's focus going to be on trying to do a deep run in the UCL or winning top 4 again? Because it's top 4 is probably going to be looking more harder to get this year than probably the past 2 seasons, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
They weren't that far ahead of Spurs, who have also reinforced. Has also reinforced quite strongly as well. Still some positions missing, but Man United is back where they should be realistically. So they got to figure out whether they're going to go for a deep run in Europe and try and win a trophy there, or try and go for top 4, because winning the league is we already know that's City. So yeah.
Yeah, it depends how long court takes.
Well, I think they said the decision would be made early 2025. So got to wait till then.
$10 million fine and they're done. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Spurs, Big Ange, he's getting the players he wants now. So we got obviously Solanke, who a lot of people are saying maybe a bit too expensive. I disagree completely.
I don't think so.
When you look at the price of
20-goal striker.
Yeah, when you look at the price of Holland, I can't say your striker's name.
Højlund.
Thank you. When you look at the price of Højlund, who had 9 goals or something when he signed for United, this guy's worth it. Premier League proven, constantly done well in the Championship. So when he's
also perfect for what they need. Like they needed a proper striker. They got a proper striker.
Yeah.
They got Richarlison. What do you want?
So they needed a proper striker, and they got a proper striker.
One that's not struggling mentally as well. So we were there. They also went out and they've picked up a couple of other guys. So obviously they got Archie Gray, who Reggie, you've played Football Manager. I don't know if you've ever signed him, but he's talented as anything.
No,
he
I
plays
don't.
in every position.
Don't sign English wonder kids.
That might just be me then. Archie Gray.
Why not? Ones like Mason Greenwood are really like.
Is he in the
okay.
But they signed Archie Gray, and look, Archie Gray he's a really talented player. He's going to be exactly what Ange needs, someone who's fit, got a lot of pace in him. And then they also went and signed Wilson Burr, I believe it is, with no notice, or nobody knew about that. Even Romano didn't post about that. It just happened.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Jesse, Romano hater.
Here we land, isn't it?
Yeah. Here we land.
Yeah. Romano's getting replaced by some random kid on TikTok now. Romano's washed up.
He is washed up. I almost made that my topic, actually.
If you would.
I think Spurs have reinforced where they needed to reinforce. Defensively, they made that new centre back signing in January, so he didn't play as much, but they've got that back up there. They're not in Champions League, I don't believe, so Europa, but I think they're in a chance to go top 4. Yeah, they got a chance to go top 4. They're only a couple of points off last year. I think they're in a really strong position. Finally, the last team who I think has had a really good transfer window, and it pains me to say this, is Manchester United.
Yeah.
They've given my club $90 million, so I can't. They've given Bayern Munich $90 million this season, so I can't complain too much. You guys have signed obviously the Ligt. You got Mazraoui, you got Xerxes, and you got Lenny Yoro, who unfortunately is going to miss the first.
But you told me De Ligt is a second-rate defender.
No. I never said nothing.
That was every pundit in England.
De Ligt is.
That's every pundit in England and everyone in the group, all whom have never watched the Bundesliga or the Eredivisie or Serie A in their lives, but they want to talk about Matthias de Ligt. Because he's gone to Man United. That's the only reason why he's second rate. That's the only reason why.
It's funny because as Yanni mentioned in the chat, everyone's like, "Oh, Dyer replaced him." He didn't. He played all the games alongside him. Like, what do you mean he replaced him? There's 2 centre backs in a team.
I was watching. I was watching the Saturday Social, whatever they want to call it, and Neve was on it. I don't know if you know who Neve is, but she's really knowledgeable when it comes to and somebody brought up that fact. Oh, Dyer replaced him, blah blah blah, and she shut them down. And she was like, "You know what annoys me?" She's pretty much, "You know what annoys me? If any other team made that signing of De Ligt, they would be lauded for it. If it was Liverpool, they would be lauded for it. If it was Man City, it'd be lauded for it. But because it's Man United, people just want to criticize them, and to the point that they even make up lies about it. For example, that De Ligt one, and then the price also. It went from it's actually £38 million, but they'll only advertise it in euros, and then they never actually include they actually include the bonuses as well. So they'll be like, "Oh, he cost 60 million, but he didn't actually." But it's just when it's United, you report the negative. So, yeah.
Well,
and also
half of Europe was devastated when he chose Juve. At the earlier stage of his career. Aside from Frankie De Jong, he was the most sought after player in that Ajax side.
He was,
and as well, even everyone's like, "Oh, Bayern Munich got rid of him," and it's like Bayern Munich is the same club that got rid of Julian Nagelsmann, so they're not exactly known for their decision making. But I'm saying Bayern Munich aren't exactly known for their decision making over the last few years. So
and to be fair,
Bayern Munich want to get rid of him for a reason. It's because they're idiots. Sorry, Jesse, but
the main reason Bayern wanted to get rid of De Ligt and Mazraoui in that instance is their wages, right? So obviously our old sporting director, Brazo, really great at selling players, which is why we're getting $22 million from you guys for buying Xerxes. Great at selling players, horrible at signing players, and a lot of our key players, which is why
that's the opposite of United, by the way.
Yeah, which is why you've seen the likes of Goretzka, Coman, even Nabry saying they're all up for sale this season because their wages that we're paying well out of pocket for players who are injured half the time. And that was the issue with Ligt. We had 4 other centre backs who aren't as good, but they're more available and they're on a lot less money. And that's the main reason. Like, Bayern fans don't want him gone. Bayern fans want him there, but the club, has to justify spending $15 million a year on a player in wages. Yeah, no,
Well, I think I
there's no sense
heard
betting
through
that on a
you
guy.
guys that they started a petition just to keep him at Bayern.
They did, and he thanked that petition in the post, and like I don't think he was happy to be leaving. He was a bit disappointed, but he made a point in the post that he put up saying, thank you for making a petition to keep me there. I really wish things could have worked out. The club and it
Because
was
he didn't
between
want to
the
go
club
to
and him,
United.
and
He
Yeah,
loves
well, he
United. You settle, mate.
but I mean, it's going back to the age-old bloody Man United buying an ex-Bayern player, and they're probably going to be shit for you guys now. So it's whatever.
Nah, he'll be all right. But the thing is, the entire of last season and the one before that, pundits and everyone was like, "Oh, you know what Man United really needs? They need a leader. They need a leader." Now we buy this guy who's a fucking leader, and then they're like, "Oh, they don't really need him. He's like Maguire. Get fucked." Honest to God.
And that's the
Maguire,
thing.
System
the
share,
captain
it's-
at one stage, by the way. Leader.
Yeah, shit cut. Shit cut.
But the thing is
I've
too,
never hated it. He's my most hated captain of all time.
Delit was a leader in our defensive line too. So he was telling players, you'd watch any game with anyone who goes, "Oh, he's washed up." Nah, watch a Bayern game where he was in the defense because he was telling people where you need to stand. Upamecano is trying to bloody run and score goals, and Dilit's going, "Nah, stand right there and don't fucking move." Like that's how good he was. Like
He's
was
also a
leading
great
the
guy in
defensive line,
regards to
just telling the likes
Lenny
of
Yoro. Like, it takes pressure away
because
from
you're gonna have
Lenny
2
Yoro.
young centre backs. Yeah, so Lenny Yoro is going to be able to come back, ease his way into the team now, not be regarded as like an instant starter, and gives Ten Hag a bit more flexible. If he wants to play 3 at the back, you've got 3 really good centre backs now. If you can get them all fit at the same time,
And
you've got Mazraoui is a really good right back when fit. If he can stay fit, that's a big if.
He was so good
he played
the
well.
other day.
He played well.
he's gonna
Played
be
really well against Fulham.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that was so the issue you'll find, and a lot of Ajax and Bayern fans will probably say the same thing is he's really really good, then he gets injured, and then he comes back, and it's like he's never touched a football in his life.
Yeah.
Then he would be really really good, and then he'll get injured again. You go through periods, but he's I think for 15 million he's going to be a bargain buy.
The good thing is we don't need to rely on him
Josh
because we have Dallo.
Josh Xerxes debut goal as well. Obviously, though, that's a really good moment. Like we didn't really get him for too much. And he's a striker that we needed, especially the Hoyland's out. But again, we needed to at least have 2 centre forwards. And it is reported that we are back in for Manuel Ugarte. So if we can find a way to get Ugarte as well, that really does put us in a good position to sort of play well again.
And you and Liverpool are in the same boat as you both need that number 6, and if you can get it, you're both going to have a good season.
Yeah.
Casemiro, I think he was good in the game over the weekend, but
it was very good.
Does he have the legs for a full season anymore? Probably not.
Casemiro was actually really good in attack that game, not in defense. And what Ugarte does is he's the defensive rock. Like he's actually pretty shit in attack, but he's really good in the defense. Like kind of like Kante was in a way, not to the same level because Kante is generational in my opinion, but that style of player where he will just protect the back. And but the other thing I wanted to mention about Man United's transfer window and what I thought was actually quite good.
Should never have brought them up.
No, but it's I think it's probably one of like the best selling windows we've had in a long time, and we've only sold 3-ish players. But Wan-Bissaka for 15 million, Greenwood for 25 million, and then we also sold there's Kambuala for 10, and also this other guy Carreras or whatever for another 6. So we've actually managed to sell players for a change, which is mind blowing. Last season we sold it wasn't Hannibal. We sold, maybe it was Chong. I don't remember who exactly it was, for less than $1 million.
It was
Iqbal for less than $1 million. Come on.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Because I didn't think you guys were going to be able to get any money for Greenwood, so I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no one expected it to happen. They thought he would never play again, which was the reasonable opinion to have.
Should never be playing
That's
again.
its own issue. But
Yeah.
at least we got that off our backs, at least, which is good. Like we got it off our backs, got some cash for him, and now we can just at least move on from that period.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, we're talking about United, so should we segue to manager pressure, particularly Erik ten Hag?
Yes.
Unless Jesse had another club to mention. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I think he did. He
no,
might
no,
have.
it was just those four. So
Those
I
clubs?
think those are the four who have had the best transfer window so far. I would say
Cool.
West Ham and Aston Villa are probably better than the other two, but depends on how their seasons go.
Very good.
Oh, thanks, Jesse, and good discussion. Good to see some positivity around United for once. And I
United.
guess I didn't realize we are going to segue into my topic. But yeah, on the topic, and we sort of just hinted at it a little bit earlier, but yeah, my topic was about managerial pressure that is really fueled by the media, specifically, and I really want to focus on Erik ten Hag. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because, and I want to preface this and say that I love everything that Sky Sports and the Overlap do. Love their content, love how far more accessible it is for fans, especially fans like us overseas who don't have licenses for UK television. We've got YouTube content.
Yep.
But in the fan debate featuring Paul Scholes and Jamie Carragher, and then again on the most recent episode of Overlap's podcast, Stick to Football, Jamie Carragher was mentioning and planting the seeds, as he does, the cheeky little child-spitting dickhead. He decides to talk about Erik ten Hag. Oh, he might be sacked by Christmas. And he's doing this whole thing of, the whole narrative of Ten Hag being sacked by Christmas. He's trying to put that whole thing of, Ten Hag's under this immense pressure because now he's been back, now new ownership, blah, 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 blah. Look, this is how the media do their things. They love to make sure they can just get the seeds into fans' heads and start trying to tell the fans, Ten Hag's the enemy. He's the one you want to get. Because they did this all of last season when United and Ten Hag had to contend with, 65 injuries in total, the Mason Greenwood situation, the Jadon Sancho situation. Obviously, in the prior season, he dealt with the fallout of the Cristiano Ronaldo season. He had to deal with last season Casemiro just dropping dead. Kobe Mainu was injured, then he had to come in mid-season and save us all. A whole new system of
the selling
play.
of the club.
He had no centre backs. The selling of the club, yes. Sorry, I forgot to mention the selling of the club, going from the Glazers to the Ineos weird partnership that got going on. A lot had happened. Still came away with a strong performance in the FA Cup to beat City. And yes, they saved his job because that probably did. If the probably were going to sack him were it not for that win. But even still, with the fact that he's won 2 trophies in 2 seasons, he's taken us to Wembley 3 times. Still, they're trying to plant the seeds of, we're going to sack him, blah, 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 blah. And then even after the win against Fulham on the weekend, like, we didn't play perfectly, but we still played well enough. We didn't look too United-y. There were some good moments, but again, we had players who hadn't had pre-seasons. They were coming back from holiday, from the Euros and all that. Still, they're doing this whole thing of talking about, sacking the manager. And it's only Ten Hag or United managers that seem to have this kind of pressure. They did it with Jose Mourinho. They did it with Louis van Gaal. They did it with David Moyes. They did it with Ollie, but maybe to a lesser degree because Ollie has friends in the media because he's an ex-United boy. And now they're doing it with Ten Hag. And whether or not it's because Ten Hag's this blunt, straightforward talking Dutchman, I've got no idea what the weird agenda is. But to talk about, we might be sacking him by Christmas, he's the most likely manager to get sacked. Whether or not he's saying it, whether or not he's trolling it, I got no idea, but it's actually really laughable. And that is what encourages people to then start thinking these weird narratives about how bad Ten Hag is. Like they're saying, you should go get Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel, the guy who's fallen out with every single club he's ever managed at, you think is going to handle the pressure of managing United. Or, we should go get Pochettino, a guy who literally is too nice to manage big clubs. Or, we should go get Gareth Southgate. Yeah, he was. Or we should go get Gareth Southgate. We should sack Erik ten Hag for Gareth Southgate.
Hey man, that's
because Gareth Southgate with this such and lost both of them. Ten Hag's won finals. Enough said. My point being, the managerial pressure is ridiculous, especially on Ten Hag and Man United managers. But more specifically, the way the media can just manipulate situations, plant seeds, and twist the way people think it's actually becoming a joke.
Yeah,
and people need to actually wake up to it.
All I'm hearing are your excuses. And why didn't you win the league last year?
Why didn't you win the league?
Excuse me, this is talking
so
about
here's
Man
the thing.
United.
No, but here's the thing.
Should have
Right?
mentioned
Like,
that
I want
in
to
the
touch on
Liverpool
this
section,
because
mate.
I'm obviously quite passionate about it as well. Number one, he's not getting sacked this season. If they've just backed him with all of that after last season, he's not getting sacked this season.
Oh.
It's not happening. People can say that it'll never happen.
On top of what you're saying, imagine saying he is favourite to be sacked in a league that has Chelsea FC.
Yeah.
And to be fair,
Steve
Chelsea
Cooper
didn't
as
sack
well
their
at
manager till the
Leicester.
end, so
But number two as well. Looking at last season, so, Man United copped all these injuries. Eddie Howe and Newcastle copped all these injuries. Eddie Howe was the entire season protected by the media. Oh, he could be the next
Not
English
one
manager.
mention.
It's not his fault. Not once were they like, oh, maybe he could lose his job.
They're touting him for the England job.
Yeah. And they're trying to give us the leftovers in Southgate. And and then Poch last season underperformed for 60-70% of that season with the squad that he had. They're not a strong squad. They're new. Blah 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 blah. Man
It's a
United squad
process.
was so much worse than Chelsea's squad last season, especially considering the injuries. It was
And Chelsea
absolute
had
bullshit.
the resources available.
Yeah,
We
100%.
know. We know.
Yeah, and
To a fault.
yeah,
it's just the same as what you said just before about Ligt being questioned because he's Man United. It's the exact same thing.
100%. And
And Man
yeah, I
United
mean, at the end of the
Man
day,
United get clicks.
it's the media in
It's
England.
insane. And
Yeah.
it's crazy because look, I'm just gonna be a bit of a smartass for a second. I just find it funny how on a show that contains Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, Wayne Rooney, Roy Keane, Jamie Carragher, among those people, thinks he knows what it takes to win the Premier League.
Yes,
Put that out there. But again, like it's highly irresponsible to just be like, oh, I think it's gonna get sacked by Christmas. Like on what basis? On what basis? Oh, because he might underperform. Like he's got players he wants, but also like we've just signed him to a contract. He's won trophies.
That's
Majority of
actually
United
another
fans,
reason he's not going to get sacked.
80%. Well, 80% of United fans want him in. So like, why say this shit? Why plant these seeds? You're going to talk about him, but you won't say Maresca might get sacked because it's Chelsea and they're just chaotic and they'll just blame him because it's Chelsea. Like, why plant? Like, I just don't understand like the irresponsibility to just say this stuff out there. It's actually
As we said, it's
ridiculous.
clicks.
And even if you said it about another, I know, but even if you said it about another manager, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, let managers be managers. Like, they did this with Arteta. They were after Arteta. They were after Arteta. Now look at Arsenal. Primed to have another title run. They went after.
I was gonna say they still haven't won anything.
He should be under more pressure than Ten Hag. He's won nothing in 5 years.
Look, in a way, yes, but you know what I mean. Like if people listened to what the media was saying about Arteta, he'd be gone, and then Arsenal would be back to square one. I remember when the media were after Pep after his first season because it wasn't no good, and now look at Pep.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing? Like, they're just. Is it
if you're talking about City, what are they doing? Is they're cheating?
Well, yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly. Just
you know what I mean?
Yeah. When Pep came in, it was only about 80 at that point.
But yeah, like if you got like obviously,
I think the main
on about it, but it's getting ridiculous. Like it's just to have the audacity to say that twice on two separate overlap shows is just it's crazy. And I'm going to stick up for my manager because it's disgusting. Like this is a big show with a lot of ears, and that's what you're going to say. That's punditry. That's ridiculous.
I think the main point that we've got here is English media is horrible. Because we saw all this with Arsenal fan TV, and that was not even like proper pundits, ex-players or anything. That was the fans, and we saw the issues they had with Xhaka, with Wenger, with Arteta right at the start. Like they were, let's get him out, not sack him. Who cares? Club legend, whatever, blah blah blah. Now that they do something good, no, we're always backing him. It's like, no, you fucking weren't.
But like that fan
take
TV.
a bad result.
That blew up because their platform was built off of negativity. And that's only something you find in England.
Yeah, and all these people are like, oh, no, it's so good, it's so good. It's like you're part of the problem because the media pressure can affect decisions that a club makes. You don't think it would, but when everyone's going, oh no, out, let's get him out, let's get him out, let's get him out, over and over and over again, and the fans start calling for it, then the clubs, usually pressure into it because they feel like they have to.
Yep.
And how many people like actually form their own opinion based on their own observations, or are just parroting the media saying it? Like that's what point about the players.
Well, I mean, the Ligt example just shows you that they're all parroting.
Yeah,
exactly. Like everyone's now going to start saying it because the seeds have been planted. Whether it was Ten Hag, whether it was Arteta, Wenger, and even like if to go back to United again, like they did it with Jose, and everyone said, "Oh, you got to get rid of Jose because he fell out with Pogba and Martial." But then like hindsight proved that he was right about Pogba and Martial. So like I thought that lesson in itself should be like, hey, that lesson in itself should prove that like the managers are never really the problem at United, and still we do it, and still we just say these really just stupid things. And to go back to Arsenal Fan TV, they were so toxic that they had to change take the Arsenal out of their name because they were that bad for the PR of the club. It's how toxic and negative they were.
I argued with someone in the Bayern fan group about this when we were looking at signing Ten Hag from you guys when it looked like you were going to sack him. And Ten Hag is the manager you guys need right now, and the manager you want, because he's getting rid of these egos, right? As much as I take the piss out of the whole Sancho situation,
if we had a different manager now, and we were looking for a manager, Ten Hag would be the one we would be like wanting to bring in.
Like that whole Sancho situation, even the Ronaldo situation, he was justified in those situations. I had an argument with some Bayern fan about Sancho because he was like, "No, Ten Hag can't even deal with Sancho." It's like, no, he's done the exact right thing. He's waiting for an apology because he was publicly criticised by one of his players. Any manager who would do the exact same thing, and if they don't do that, and they just let the player walk right over him, that's not a manager you want at your club. And so Ten Hag
the problem is that nowadays
the same media for the past 10 years who've been saying too much player power at United, the managers don't have any power, they're getting overrun. Finally, we have a manager who stood up to Cristiano Ronaldo, who said, "Ronaldo, all-time legend of the club, being a dickhead, fuck off." He does that, or he does that to Sancho too. Now, oh no, he's in the wrong. He's in the wrong. But we've just been crying out for a manager who's got like this vision and this plan for the club for the future. We have it. Oh no, get rid of him. What do you want? What do you want?
The problem is that a lot of fans nowadays follow players rather than teams, and I think that's what the fans complaining about that kind of stuff stems from, is that they'd rather support Sancho rather than him or whatever. But to bring him back to Ten Hag and how unfairly judged he is and all that kind of stuff, name any other manager in the Premier League aside from Pep who has won 2 trophies over the last 2 years. Name one. You can't. And then he's made another semi-final in Europa, and he's also made another final in the FA Cup the year before. So it's not like he's not getting us to that point. He's got he's got a 66% winning ratio in finals at Man United.
Yep. It's also
you're saying, he's not good enough.
Big to beat Man City in the FA Cup, because the end of the season is where City steamroll.
Yeah, 100%.
And we everyone wrote us off that game. And this isn't talked about enough, is that, like, again, one thing that we always want to say is, oh, you're not at all about youth. Well, he's blooded Garnacho, he's blooded Kobe Mainu. He's also brought in Lisandro Martinez, who's a young player, fan favourite. Among other players, obviously Hoyland and Xerxes as well. Ahmad, he's starting to getting a bit more out of Ahmad as well. Bruno's found great form underneath him. Even Scott McTominay has been on good form because he's starting to use him further forward more. Like, so it's not like he's getting the best out of his plays. Even to some portions. Now, Yoni, just bite your tongue for a second. To some portions, he's gotten performances out of Harry Maguire. For God's sake, Dallo has looked like one of the best right backs in the league under Ten Hag. Shaw, when he's alive, has looked terrific. So players are playing well under Ten Hag, on top of him bringing in the next generation of players. So people talk about identity, blah blah blah. He's building identity.
Yeah. Can I touch on Bruno here for a second? Actually, I've noticed
Shit.
for this
Like,
season, the narrative around Bruno in the media now has changed because they were not sure if he was going to leave the Premier League or stay. And while it looked like he was going to leave, actually all the Premier League, like the pundits and everything, were showing what a good player he is, like his stats. They're like, look at this, it's actually better than everyone else, whatever. But when it was last season and the one before, they were, trying to say how shit he is and everything. But when it looked like we were going to lose him in the league, they were like, oh, he's so good, he's so good. So it's like the narrative changed as well because I think they realized like a lot of people view United actually for Bruno. I'd say a lot of fans actually because they either love him or they hate him, and I think that's actually like a big thing for the Premier League. But anyway, that's done about United.
We digress. Yeah, we can talk about media narratives
so
on managers all day,
what I'm
especially United.
hearing is all I'm
What are you hearing,
from
Jesse?
that is Bruno's carrying the financial backing of the entire league. That Bruno Fernandes
Accurate.
in the Premier League, it's shit league.
Is the best Bruno around?
Honestly,
Fair enough. Salah
Bruno
is a
Fernandes
higher.
is the best player. Is the best player in the Premier League. We're ending it on that. But with that being said, we can rant about United all day, and I'm sure we'll have other episodes dedicated to United because that's just the way it is. But we've got
Just
one
the
more
way
topic.
it
Our
is.
good man here, Yoni, our good man here, Yoni, does want to discuss the who he
Man
thinks
United.
will be the underachievers, underachievers, and overachievers this season. I'm sure there'll be quite a few, but Yoni, who are you thinking?
No underachievers. I want to be a bit positive, so I'm just talking about three teams.
That's the first.
Three teams that are, in my opinion, are gonna have a good season. Can't tell you, they're gonna win the league or this or that, but I just think they'll be much better than they were in the last league as well.
Are we talking
We
just
have touched
Premier
on a
League
couple of
or
them.
around Europe?
One in the Premier League, one in the Serie A, and one in Bundesliga. Actually,
very good.
is what I'm going with. There was no point in doing the La Liga. Real Madrid's just going to dominate it. What's the point? So,
What about the French league? What about the French league?
That folded
no one cares.
3 months ago.
When Mbappe's left.
I think they still haven't sold their TV rights. I think.
Like you just found out, they're not even Uber Eats anymore.
It's DoorDash now.
McDonald's.
But,
McDonald's.
No, but all right. Let's start with the Premier League. Obviously, it's Man United. I'm kidding. Not going with United. It is a team we actually touched on before. I had two teams. I had a few teams in mind, but I had two that I kind of narrowed it down to. The one I'm not going to really talk about, but I just want to give an honourable mention is actually Newcastle, because I do think without the Champions League, without any of Europe or anything like that, they might actually be able to cook up something really good in the Premier League. They kept all the big guns as well. Isak, if he's on form and firing, I mean, in my opinion, the second best striker in the league. And if you want to say, you can even say he's probably the most complete striker in the Premier League. So that's Newcastle. However, my number one team to look out for, in my opinion, is actually Spurs. I think they are going to. I think this is the year they can win a trophy. No. And I actually think that trophy.
Which trophy?
Will be the Europa, and they're going to beat United. That's what I think.
You know what? In my transfer thing, at the end of it, I literally wrote for Spurs, this could be the season they win a trophy. So I'm with you.
I can really see it because
I think if Spurs are going to win a trophy, it's going to be this season.
I don't want them to win a trophy at the expense of Man United. Can you change that prediction? Because I
will
never live with myself.
I don't want them to win a trophy at the expense of memes.
It will be interesting. It will be interesting because they've obviously. It is interesting because they've obviously didn't strengthen yet in midfield. I'm not actually 100% sure they do or not. I think that's actually more of a tweak in regards to the tactical side of things that they need to fix there, as opposed to players, because players they do still have quite a few. They did get they did. They have Archie Gray, right? So that'll be a really good purchase for them. And they did get rid of Højbjerg, but I think Archie Gray is probably a better shot for what they need. The other thing is they did buy Solanke, as we mentioned, which in my opinion really will help them. Richarlison is shit. As having Solanke as your main number 9 is really, really good. And they also did get Odobert, as you've mentioned, who I think will give Son a much needed rest because he does play as a left winger. So that gives Son the opportunity to, be subbed off when needed, or Odobert might play like the cup games, and Son can play the Premier League or Europa, whatever the case is. So I definitely think in the Premier League and Europe in general, they're a team to watch. Any thoughts on?
No, all very good points.
100%.
As much
Agree.
as I don't want to see it, it's hard to argue.
Plus, let's go Big Ange.
I want to see it. I want to see Big Ange
yeah,
lifting
be
the
good.
trophy in Europe and going, fuck all you cunts.
Well, he can do it
I want
elsewhere.
him to say the cunt on live TV. Yeah, well,
It'd be cool, like if he gets
When-
like an FA Cup or a League Cup as well. That'd be
Liverpool
pretty cool
sack
for him.
slot.
Yeah. I definitely think this is the season where it can happen. And I think generally
Maybe it's like the
speaking,
Premier
Big
League.
Ange, when you
I'll
look at his
say it.
career, second season is really strong. Like he normally wins the second season. So
You know much about his
That's-
career outside of
pardon?
Europe? So,
Don't know what Jesse
the
just
two-
said. He froze for me.
Yeah.
can you name the two A-League clubs that Big Ange coached?
Is the Socceroos one of them?
So A-League clubs, you dickhead.
Yeah, that's
It was a joke,
national
mate.
team.
Yeah. I don't really care about A League.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, he
So, I'm gonna
managed
go-
Barcelona for one. The mighty.
Yes, and the
And
victory.
then the biggest,
the big-
and
the
then
big
the
V.
biggest team in the league.
He didn't go
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Sydney FC. That's weird.
Oh, fuck off.
Who'd you have in City A there, Yoni?
Yeah, cool. So in Serie A, I'm actually going with Roma. I think they're going to have a really good season as well. Now, hear
Is
me
that
out.
who David De Gea went to, or
No, he went to
No, he went
Fiorentina.
to
Fiorentina.
Fiorentina.
Yeah.
But if you look at
Fiorentina.
Roma, if you actually look at Roma, once De Rossi took over in, I think it was
Purple
January.
club.
Pardon? What'd you say, Jesse?
I was entering Alex and said the purple club.
well,
Don't worry.
All right. So yeah, once De Rossi
Like
took
the
over,
way
they
there.
actually had a really good run of games where they were winning quite a bit, and they did actually at the end of the season kind of like lose their rhythm and didn't do well in the last like maybe 7 games or so. But if you actually look at like who they've brought in as well at the moment, they got this guy Dovbyk from Girona who killed it last season in Girona. But if you actually look at his
Macedonian.
last 4 seasons, if you look at his last 4 seasons, he's killed it in regards to scoring goals. So they brought a proper goal machine, which I think was a problem from the last season because Tammy Abraham is fucking shit. So
He's English.
I think
Leave
that
him
was
alone.
really, it explains it all. So I think that was a good purchase. They brought in Angelino, who I think is quite good in regards to knowing how to win and all that kind of stuff. I think he'll bring some really good attributes in regards to that, probably better than Zinchenko did for Arsenal. That's just a reference because they're both left backs from City. And then they also brought Sule from Juventus. So I think that's also another good defensive kind of purchase to bring in. So I just think that they're in Europa as well. So they will have quite a few games, but the squad should be better now. And if De Rossi keeps playing the way that he did, which was a very attacking type of play, because he has 2 attacking mids that he plays, they'll do quite well with Dobrik as the striker. So that's my shout for Serie A. I'm not saying they're going to win the Serie A. I just think they're going to do better than they have over the last 2 or 3
also-
seasons.
Correct me if I'm wrong about Dybala, but did he sign for Saudi?
I think he
saw somewhere
moved.
that he
I
was
think
going to
he's
Saudi.
left.
Yeah, I think so.
Is it official?
You know who? I think so.
I'm pretty sure he's left.
Yeah.
I don't know what Jesse's saying. He's freezing to me a lot at the moment.
Yes, Jesse very
I think Dybala. I think
laggy.
Dybala. I think
No,
Dybala
he's
got
still-
there. We landed to Saudi.
Oh no, there we landed.
He hasn't signed for Saudi yet.
No, but he got there. We landed. So
That's gonna happen.
cool.
Yeah.
And then I'll move to the last team, which is in the Bundesliga. And again, we touched on it earlier. Dortmund. They are going to have a proper good season. The only thing that's interesting is I kind of find it funny because I don't think many people realize that Sahin's actually the coach now. because he went from Dortmund B to Dortmund A, and he's the coach now. I don't know much about how he plays. Like, honest to God, no idea. But just if you look at the players that they brought in, like to bring in Guressi is amazing. Like, he scored 28 goals in the Bundesliga last season, so that's going to be huge for them. And to take somebody from the competitors to actually bring him to them, that's really good. And then they have Gross, like Pascal Gross, and if you look at his Brighton days, always been very good. Even last season, he's 33 years old, but last season he scored 4 goals and assisted 10 for Brighton, and that's Brighton. There was actually also had a lot of injuries. Like, Ferguson didn't play much, Matoma didn't play much, so he didn't have those finishes that he would have had. Right now, for example, at Dortmund.
And they lost a bit of quality as well. He was one of their bright sparks.
Yeah, 100%. And if you think even like somebody like, because they had João Pedro. It is João Pedro. Not most of his goals, but a lot of his goals actually came from like pens and things like that. So, it's not like he assisted many to him. It was actually assisting to like the team in general. So I think it was very good. But I can't tell you how they'll do because I don't know how Sahin's going to play. Yep. But I think that top 3, and I'm hoping Jesse will speak about this quite a bit because obviously being the Bundesliga local here, but the top 3 will actually be very entertaining to watch, I think, throughout the entire season, as opposed to Leverkusen's going to win it or Bayern's just going to streamroll or anything like that.
Bayern not winning the league last year has made the league more interesting to neutral fans. People want to see if they're going to be held off again.
Yeah, I was going to go more into depth to it when I do the transfers for Bundesliga next week.
So
hoping you go more in depth, yeah, it will work better.
Probably annoyed. Just like, fuck.
Real life, go.
So Dortmund, they're upset. They missed their chance to win the league last season. They've been very close the last couple. Last season, they got rid of Jude by no choice of their own, signed some new players, and then just collapsed. They were nowhere near as good as the season before. They're up. They've gone out. They've signed a bunch of decent players. Obviously, Maximilian Bayer as well from Hoffenheim, who's a gun. They've gone out of their way. They've put a lot of money into their team. Top 3, 100%. Like, if they can't finish top 3, then yeah, they've wasted their money. Bayern's gone on the defensive as well, so they've signed a bunch of new players too. They're trying to be more attacking. They've signed players to get rid of the injury ones and all that shit. I think the big story, and this is derailing so far from Dortmund at the moment, is Leverkusen hasn't lost any of the players. So the Bundesliga, you're looking at a potential top 3 title fight because Leverkusen just strengthened. They didn't lose a single main first 11. Dortmund have just increased their firepower a lot. Obviously, Guirassi's already out injured, unfortunately, but they've got other players, to play in his position too. So yeah, 100% spot on. Dortmund's going to be up there for the Bundesliga this season.
Should be exciting.
Just to touch on Leverkusen as well, it looks like they also haven't lost that never die attitude. They were down 2-1
in it again.
Shield came back.
They just keep going.
So frustrating because no matter how comfortable you are in the game, they're just coming back and scoring that one.
We're never gonna sign Xabi Alonso because he's never gonna leave after winning a trophy.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably gonna go Real Madrid next season anyway.
You
got Slot, right into relegation. Hopefully,
if he does well. Yeah, if he does well, then why would you need to go for Alonso? So
yeah,
he's gonna end up
for the romance.
Yeah, we're gonna next year anyway.
But you don't even know when Ancelotti's going to leave.
Oh, well, he was leaving last season to manage Brazil, remember?
Yeah, but now that's not happening.
He's managing Brazil basically anyway now, but he'll leave into this season. Just do the little one last little eyebrow.
Yep.
And then off he goes.
Washed up, remember?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that, Jesse. He was washed up. He's won 2 Champions League since.
So bad.
That was a fun debate. Anyone who's not in the know, I called, this is about 2.5 years ago. I said that Ancelotti still got it, and Jesse called him washed up. Ancelotti has since won 2 Champions Leagues.
Yeah, well, Jesse
fair,
being wrong
he
is very common.
I'm just
He played with
surprised
a
Jesse
vine
could
and
pronounce
he
his
was-
name.
I can't. I haven't said his name once.
I can't even say Carlo.
Carlo.
Carlos.
Just a Carlo Ancelotti. Sure. And those are your 3 teams, Johnny. So
That's all.
Your overachievers will be Dortmund, Spurs, who probably win a trophy apparently, and what was the other one again? Roma.
Yeah.
So yep, big ones there. And then obviously we had myself with my rant about the Ten Hag treatment. Jesse, you're for transfer window winners of West Ham, Villa, Spurs, and United. And then Reggie soaking in a bit of sadness that Liverpool have done fuck all in this transfer window and have not backed their Baldy.
I hope Michael Edwards watches this episode and goes hard on deadline day.
I'll DM it to him. Don't worry. With that being said, guys, it's been a pleasure to have you all back. We will leave it there. But yeah, a pleasure to have you all back. It was great to check in again. Great to see the guys again and to talk football. We will hopefully make this more regular. We've got a bit more of a regular program and routine now, so we'll be able to do this a lot more frequently. So stay tuned for some more in-depth discussions. Weekly is what we're going to be hoping for now that some things have worked in our favor. So stay tuned for some further discussions. But does anyone else have anything they would like to add before we leave it there?
Yeah.
You know, Chris Smalling is still at Roma.
Fun fact.
Who?
Wow.
Who's still at Roma?
Smaldini.
Anyway, Chris Smalling.
Oh, they said Volpato. I'm like, fuck that guy.
All right, boys. You guys have a good week. And everyone watching, I hope you have good weeks.